Hey folks, here at OSMVTXReviews.com. You're watching our video review of the HTC Paradise for AT&T Wireless. This is an interesting device because it was actually never officially released here in the United States. Instead, when this phone was going to be released back in 2012, it was replaced by the Motorola Flipside, which offered the same QWERTY keyboard flip-out form factor with a touchscreen display running on Android 2.2 Froyo. It also has the same specs, essentially, as the Motorola Flipside, with the 3.2 megapixel camera, and of course with Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth all on board. But of course, that model is produced by Motorola, and this version is produced by HTC. And as a result, this HTC Paradise is actually a phone that was never officially released. It was canceled before it had a time to get it there out onto the market, which we think is kind of a shame, and for that reason, we're taking a closer look at this never-released handset. In terms of design, the HTC Paradise is a beautifully crafted phone. The front of the device is made out of a one-piece actual plastic. However, what's interesting is on the spec sheet, HTC promised this device to have a capacitive touchscreen, but on the production model here that we have, it's actually incorporating a resistive touchscreen, which is something that's a bit of a discrepancy between the two. The size of the device is outlined by this blue coloring, which makes for a very colorful and vibrant theme, but this is also disguising the slide-out QWERTY keyboard, which also has this blue layout. This makes the device seem a little bit more youthful and cheerful and also vibrant, and perhaps thus this phone was more aimed at a younger crowd than it was for more mature and mobile professionals out there. Taking a closer look at the front of the device, we have an indicator light / speaker grill on the top of the device, dominated by a 3.1-inch TFT LCD display with a 180 pixel per inch density. Below the touchscreen display, we have access to the 4 traditional Android hotkeys composing of the home, the menu, the back, and the search. The HTC Paradise has a notification light on the top and also an ambient light sensor, but it doesn't have a front-facing camera, so unfortunately for WeChat fanatics out there, this phone won't work. That said, with the ambient light sensor, it means that the buttons will illuminate and turn on when in darker environments, which is pretty good because it's easier to see. Speaking of, the 4 Android controls on the bottom of the device are also resistive on this prototype unit. This means that they are a little bit more difficult to press than you might expect and requires a little bit more of a firmer press. The bottom device features an optical trackpad that can take you up, down, left, and right, and you can use to navigate through different menu navigations, and also dubs as an OK center key by pressing inwards. The button is nice and large and very tactile and offers a bit of a style to the front facade of the handset. As you can see overall, the HTC Paradise's front is very, very shiny. It's also a huge fingerprint magnet, and this makes it a little bit more transflective out in direct sunlight, as you can see here. Still, the LCD display remains to be pretty bright, and this is only at half brightness, and you can already see things very clearly. And despite being only a traditional LCD, the Paradise's screen also offers great viewing angles, so it's still easy to see even in extreme angles. The left-hand side of the device features a dedicated volume rocker that's pretty easy to press. The phone is made out of plastic, but it has a very good weighty feel to it, and offers a pretty premium sense overall, as do most HTC phones these days. The bottom of the device features a micro USB for charging and syncing information, while the right-hand side features nothing. The top features a 3.5mm headphone jack, a pry hole for the battery cover, and also a power on and off switch that's a little bit small for our tastes. The back features a 3.2 megapixel autofocus camera with no LED flash or self-portrait mirror, but it is also decorated by this blue metal outline that matches the design elementation of the sides of the phone. There's also a speaker grill on the back, and with HTC Sense logo. So the thing here that's kind of interesting about the HTC Paradise is that, again, it's also running an HTC Sense, but on a much larger screen, a much smaller screen, than most HTC phones these days with Sense on it. And as a result, it's a lot more pocket-friendly, both in terms of the size and also in terms of the pricing. When the device was originally going to be released, it was only priced at $100 with a 2-year contract, which is very affordable. As you can see here, Sense basically customizes over Android 2.2 Froyo by adding a different layer of wallpapers and little themes and packages that you can customize. It also slightly tweaks the menu drawer on the bottom by adding a curved design, and also the drop-down notification drawer has been slightly tweaked. Moreover, there are a few exclusive HTC widgets, including some clocks, which you can take a look at. For example, if I wanted to add a clock, you can actually add from different HTC options, which includes many different options and styles that you can customize to your liking. Some of them traditional, some of them analog, but all of them are pretty interesting overall. Also, some specific locations and specific features of HTC Sense included features like footprint, which allowed you to actually take pictures and use actual GPS tracking for you to know when you took those pictures and where you took those pictures, so you can actually track down your locations and your pictures on a map when you click on them again, which is pretty cool. And essentially that's it. There's also included Twitter, Facebook, weather, and YouTube applications built in. However, on the prototype unit that we have here, unfortunately YouTube seems not to be working. Speaking of the performance aspect of the HTC Paradise, again, it's pretty much on paper with the Motorola Flip Out in terms of specs. It runs with a 700 MHz processor and 512 megabytes of RAM. There is no included built-in memory, but there is a 2 GB micro SD card which you can access that's behind the back cover. The battery that's used on the HTC Paradise is also the same one that's found on the HTC Arrive and also the HTC Touch Pro 2, so it's something that's a bit of a standard in terms of HTC batteries. Coming in at 1,200 milliamps, the battery life on the HTC Paradise is thankfully very, very good, and it can last you around 3 days without having to recharge using the device sporadically. Call quality on the phone is also excellent, and reception was never really an issue, and we were able to call people even when we were finding ourselves maybe with only 1 or 2 bars of reception left, and call quality is excellent, and the same goes with the speakerphone quality. It's loud and clear and easy to hear. Taking a quick look at the camera of the phone, it's an extremely good camera. You would expect that only 3.2 megapixels would be really low for something that might be good in terms of camera quality, but the autofocus abilities are actually really strong. If we take something that's really small here and we tap on the screen to focus, everything actually comes into focus pretty well, and colors and saturation and the sharpness of everything turns out to be very, very crisp and very clear. Also, with HTC Sense on board, you can then directly take those images and send them to Picasa, take them to your MySpace, also to Facebook and Twitter, so it makes for a very easy to use and web-connected experience overall. However, the HTC Paradise was also going to ship out with a lot of AT&T bloatware, as you can see here. There's things like AT&T Navigator, AT&T Communicator, AT&T Maps, AT&T Music, some applications here and there that you don't typically need, and there's also a lot of trial versions of games like Pac-Man that aren't the full versions, which are kind of unfortunate. And essentially all the things that you're seeing here, including the mobile Yellow Pages, the Wear applications, are all pre-installed by the manufacturer. And that's kind of unfortunate because it definitely makes the device more sluggish and hinders the usability of the phone because it makes things a little bit more difficult to get through and clutters things up, especially because the screen is only 3.2 inches, which is on the smaller side of the spectrum. As you can see here, even though the device that we have here, the prototype, runs on a resistive touchscreen, it seems that things are pretty responsive. We only have to really lightly tap in order to get a response, which is much improved over previous iterations of resistive touchscreens. The device also again comes with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS, which all work pretty well. Taking a quick look at the web browser, it's a standard web browser affair. You do have Flash enabled in the web browser, but you have to turn that on by going to Settings, and you can of course display both the mobile site as well as the full site of the web browser when you are browsing through the web. Taking a quick look at the actual slide-out QWERTY keyboard on the side here, it's a pretty spacious and large QWERTY keyboard. It's very tactile, the buttons are risen above the surface, and overall provides a nice tactile spring when you click on the buttons, which makes typing to be a pretty good experience overall. The buttons are also backlit as well, so you can definitely see them even in darker environments, and it makes typing on the device typically a lot easier to use. The on-screen keyboard, as you can see here, is a little bit more cramped. There's also voice recognition if you want to use that instead of typing. Again, HTC has opted with their own keyboard instead of HTC Sense or anything like that, but it makes things a little bit more complicated. Overall, kinetic scrolling and all the functionalities are pretty smooth and easy to use. There is an accelerometer built in, so of course you can use the side view, but there is no built-in horizontal keyboard because HTC expects you to use the slide-out mechanism to do that. Speaking of, the slide-out QWERTY keyboard is again very strong. It's spring assisted, so it's pretty easy to slide in and out of the mechanism. The back of the device typically uses the same design as the one found on the HTC MyTouch 4G and 3G phones, so it offers a pretty decent sliding mechanism. It doesn't seem like it's going to break too easily or too fast over time. If you want to take a quick look at some browsing experience, for example, let's go to google.com first. Again, the keyboard is a little bit small, especially without swipe on there. But over Wi-Fi, speeds are pretty respectable and pretty easy to use overall. Again, we've launched, this is the mobile version, but of course we can also launch the classic version, the full site version, and you can see that the speeds are overall pretty fast. Again, because this is a resistive touchscreen and not a capacitive touchscreen, unfortunately there are no multi-touch gestures supported on this phone. This means that when you're sliding in or looking at pictures or browsing the web, you're only limited to tapping in to zoom in or double tapping to zoom out. Still, overall, it's a pretty good web browsing experience, a little bit on the slower side of the spectrum due to the slower processor and memory, but overall still pretty respectable. You will have to use the mobile applications of YouTube, however, to watch YouTube videos instead of using the native browser. So essentially that's it. This is the HTC Paradise. It's a pretty good phone, offers a lot of standard functionalities, and it makes for a decent mid-range / low-end Android handset. And of course the main selling point here was the fact that it had a QWERTY keyboard, which is getting more and more rare for HTC phones that runs on Android, with HTC focusing more on slate form factors than slide-out QWERTY keyboards, especially for AT&T Wireless as a quad-band GSM World phone. The HTC Paradise was, again, very colorful, very vibrant, and overall nicely designed, even though it's a little bit small for our likings and a little bit underpowered. Still, we would have liked to see this phone hit the market, but unfortunately it wasn't. It was ousted by the Motorola Flip Out, which we think is a decent phone, but overall not as vibrant or colorful as the HTC Paradise would be and could have been. Thanks for watching this video review of the HTC Paradise never released HTC phone here at osandbtxreviews.com.